This is my pencil drawing of a rattlesnake, and today I'll walk you through every step, so you can draw it yourself. Grab a pencil and paper and let's get started. So we have a piece of paper and we're gonna start drawing an oval right here. Now we'll draw a cross that will help us to draw the oval better. Doesn't need to be perfect, look at mine. We do it because we need some guidelines to draw more accurately. So right now I'm using this kind of grip, but you can use the grip you prefer. I prefer drawing like this when I'm drawing the rough sketch, because I feel my hand really loose, really free, and I prefer it. Anyway, you can use whatever method you are used to. Now I'm sketching the branch where the snake is sitting on. As you can see, it's more angular compared to the snake, because the snake of course is an organic shape. And one final curved line to close these snake guidelines. So this is our sketch, and now we're gonna start from the head. Now let's use the kneaded eraser to soften a little bit the guidelines, because we don't need to see them so vividly. So this is the only part that I suggest you to be really focused, because you are laying down the foundation of the drawing. You are drawing the muzzle proportions, so in this case we are drawing the eye. It's pretty simple, because you only have to draw one eye, and with the guidelines it's also very simple. So, at the end of the day, drawing is just about laying one stroke at a time and comparing every line you put on the paper with the previous one. With the help of the guidelines, you have already laid down some lines. And watching these lines will help you a lot, knowing what you have to draw next. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because as far as I'm concerned, it took me a while to really grasp the meaning of what I just told you. At the end of the day, you just have to draw, and one day you'll probably say, "Ah, okay, now I understand." And it's a beautiful feeling. So now I'm drawing the mouth. Awesome, you are doing great. And now let's draw this kind of triangle. And we're gonna draw now this long tongue. So what I'm doing right now is dividing the snake into a lot of parts with these curved lines, and I'm doing this because this will help us to draw the patterns of the snake, but we'll do it in detail later. So for now, let's just draw this kind of grid. Noticed how I drew a rough line first, and then I press a little bit more with the pencil to define this line. This is useful because you trace a path first, and if you like the line that you put on the paper, you just have to press a little bit more to make it more solid and see more what you're drawing right away. Of course, we are just in the first phase, the rough sketch phase, but if we can have a more clear idea right away, why not to take it? Yes, we're gonna work more on those lines later, but let's just lay the foundation in the beginning, so we have an easier life later. I'll let you draw for now, and I'll get back to you in a few minutes. So let's talk about scales, because we are drawing the scales of the snake. Ideally, you want to avoid drawing too symmetrically because that will not give you that natural look. These are just random geometric shapes. So just go loose, free, fast, and you'll get that natural look. Another important thing I can tell you is to not try to copy exactly what I'm doing right now. And what I mean by that is I would suggest you to not copy the exact shape of every scale like I'm doing. Just draw it your own way, because this is a creative part. If you copy it till now, you just copied the proportions of the snake. And that's good, because that's what the tutorial is made for. But this is your time to be creative, because everything you do with the scales will now compromise the proportions of the snake. So if you draw these scales in a rectangular way, or like a square, triangle, whatever the forms you give it to the snake will give a character to the snake. Maybe you want to draw a snake that doesn't even exist. So you can draw this scale in another way, in a particular way. So experiment, try a lot of things if you want. And it's also fun because you don't have to every time watch the video and draw, watch the video and draw. So you can have a more easy time, relaxing time, and it's always good, right? So go for it. Okay, let's say something about the scales on the top of the snake's head. I'm drawing them pretty randomly, as you can see. I'm not even trying to be precise, just go fast, random, because it doesn't really matter what is in the back and far away from the front. This is a perspective rule. In the front, we always put a lot more details than what is in the back. The farther we go from the front, the blurry the things are going to be. This will make you drawing a lot faster and without overloading the artwork. So we only put details only where it matters the most. Same thing as before, do not try to copy everything. It will be harder and you're not gonna have fun. It's useful to draw these curve guidelines because this way you know more or less where to put the scales. It's simple to draw because every scale is basically a diamond shape that is formed by 4 straight lines. Pretty simple. So play with different sizes to have a more natural look. Don't worry if it looks messy, because later we will make it look good. And now I will speed up the video because the process is pretty repetitive, but feel free to stop and draw at your own pace. Okay, and now let's just soften a little bit the guidelines with the kneaded eraser. And let's just start to carve the scales, giving them a form that really reminds me of a leaf. So you can think like this about it. Thinking in metaphors and in shapes in drawing helps a ton, really. If you notice, now it's pretty simple to draw this kind of leaf, because before we laid down the foundations with the diamonds. So drawing, it's like this. And if you do step by step, it's simple to draw. You just have to be patient, of course. This is something non-negotiable. And now I'll quickly draw the branch the snake is standing on, and then later we'll add some details. Okay, we officially finished the sketch phase, so let's get started with the shading part. We are starting with the tongue, so let's have some fun. For this part, I'm just gonna tell you to notice where the lightest areas are and where the darkest areas are. So when you see something dark, just press a little bit more, and when you see something lighter, the other way around. And that's it, just observe. So the first thing I like to do when it comes to shading, I like to go with the first pass really fast and random, so just to feel the white of the paper. And then afterwards we'll think a little bit more to shade it more carefully, piece by piece, scale by scale, one piece at a time. This way we'll create more contrast between the snake and the paper. For this part, I wanted to say that I'm using the technique called hatching, but you don't have to. You can just use a motion that is back and forth like you would probably do. Nothing fancy. It would be great. Because shading, it's not about being so precise, putting a lot of details. It's about creating dark areas and lightest areas to have more contrast. That's it. But I'm using hatching because I like the result, because it's very, very precise, detailed, and I just like it. It's personal preference. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify this. If it's difficult for you, or you just want to go faster, just do it back and forth and just observe where I put the darkest areas and the lightest. If I do like this, I'm darkening this part. You could do it like this. That's what I mean with back and forth. If you want to train this type of technique, just take a piece of paper and start to draw straight line like this. Of course, the more you do it, the more you'll get better. But let's talk about lighting, because I think it's really important to understanding the shading part. So here I'm drawing in the left side of the scale, the darkest area, because I'm assuming the light comes from the right corner. And it's pretty simple if you know this, because if you have seen a snake in your life, in a photo, of course, if you watch carefully, the scales are pretty rounded. So if the light comes from the right corner, you know where to place the darkest part and the lightest part. If you know how to shade a sphere, there are a lot of exercises on the internet, a lot of good tutorial about shading. I suggest you to learn how to shade a sphere first, and then you will learn how to shade everything basically. You just have to understand the form. In this case, it's pretty rounded. I hope you understand what I mean. Probably it's easier to draw it in this case than to say it. Let me know if I was clear or you want some clarification, maybe tutorial, etc. next time. And I also wanted to say that I'm not even watching the reference anymore. And I think that that's what you should aiming for. Choosing where the light comes, understanding the form, and then you can shade without watching the reference. That's your goal. But of course, for this video, you don't have to understand everything right away. You can of course copy exactly what I'm doing. The more you do it, the more you will understand. Maybe eventually, when you're drawing, you notice something and you say, oh, okay, that's what he meant. So, okay, this case, the form is like this, so the lights come from there, etc, etc. Linked it to what we said before about the scales on the top of the head snake. As you see, I'm not so careful about shading. We weren't careful before when we were sketching, so why we should be careful in the shading part? The scales on the top of the head are far away from the front, so they doesn't have to be so detailed. I hope I'm not bothering you repeating myself a couple of times, because I think that is important. A lot of people maybe benefit from some repetition, and that's it. So here, make sure to divide these two parts of the snake, pressing a little bit more with the pencil so we can see the difference between one part and the other part. As you can see, I'm creating this dark shade between the scales. This way we can have more contrast between them and the skin. And now we're gonna draw some lines that follow the forms of the scales, because I want to add a little bit of texture. And make sure to leave a little bit of white. Don't press too much, because that way we will lose contrast, and we want always a lot of contrast. Here I show you closely how I shade these scales. I want to create more depth, pressing more at the base. This way it looks more three-dimensional. And now I repeat the process for every scale. And basically now it's about darkening some spots, lightening some others, and refining here and there the drawing. Finally, the branch. As you can see, I shade really fast here, because even though it's in the foreground, because it is in the front, in this case I'm not going to put as much details as we done with the snake, because the branch is not the main subject. So yeah, this is the reason. And now the last touches for the branch, adding some random lines for the wood grain. Here press more in the intersection between the snake and the branch to emphasize the contrast between these two subjects. And that's it. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe for more weekly tutorials. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!